Hello bearded bee people, welcome back to the B&K's Bees channel for another episode of Random Inspection Friday. Today is the, I think, 27th of September, 26th or 27th. So the feeding is winding down, and as was true last week, that's what we're going to be checking here, checking to make sure that we fed enough and see how they look with winter coming on strong. Today's much cooler than it has been, and I think it's going to be cool for the foreseeable future. So we're getting into winter mode here. These rocks so I don't trip. So this is the feeder we've been using. It's just an aluminum baking pan from the dollar store up above the inner cover, propped on sticks, as I've talked about in videos before. This is a first generation Mary Ellen, so I have high hopes for them going into the winter if all other things look good. Last time I was into it, they needed a little bit of buildup, but it's been a while since I've been pretty much mainly feeding over the last 3 weeks or a month. Checking, as you always should, on the lid for the queen. I don't see her. Okay, so it looks like they're covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the frames in here. And there looks to be a lot of capped honey, I guess, if you stretch the term honey a little bit, because it's mostly sugar syrup. But that's okay. It's kind of a misconception in the beekeeping community that it takes honey for a colony to overwinter. They have a unique ability to survive on sugar alone, and in some cases, based on what's called the ash content of the food that you're providing, the honey can be too much, can cause them to have to take more frequent cleansing flights, whereas the more pure form of energy in the sucrose has a lower ash content, so that there's less left over. Man, these are really glued. There's less left over after the food is converted to energy inside the bee. Now, that's not to say that you should only have a colony eat sugar. There are obviously nutritive elements to honey that are necessary, and of course pollen for the protein. But if you're just talking about making it through a winter, a whole bunch of sucrose is not a bad thing. So here is a frame. It's fairly light, but of course you can see that there's some glistening cells there. So that's some food, as you'd expect on the outer frame. This one's a little heavier. On that side, glistening cells. On this side, a similar story. It's probably 65 degrees out right now and a little bit breezy, so I didn't necessarily expect the bees to be treating me too kindly today. It's overcast and all that, but these bees are pretty calm. I was concerned that these bees were being robbed the other day, but I think they were doing some robbing. There was some crazy activity outside of the hive, and I put that little barrier that you see at the entrance because I thought they were getting robbed out. The weight of these frames kind of tells a different story. I think they were robbing some other hive. The good news of that is, while that was going on, I did not see any other hives with crazy activity out front. So if they were robbing some hive, it wasn't mine. But yeah, that's something to definitely pay attention to, especially when you're putting feed inside a hive. Here's another heavy frame. It's barely drawn out on that side, or just a couple little patches, but on this side, it's mostly capped honey. I love the look of capped honey. It's like a neat piece of art. This one's real heavy. Okay, on the back side, mostly capped. Almost every cell is full. Front side, same thing. Looks good. Alright, this is a lighter frame. Hopefully that means brood. And it does. We have larvae, a few capped brood cells, mostly eggs and very, very young larvae. Once again, I've said it a million times on this channel, I have no idea until I get this video to editing if you were able to see any of that. I hope so. So on this side, we have some capped brood around the edge, but all of the open cells are filled with nectar, as you'd expect with October just a few days away. They hatch out and it gets backfilled, is what it's called. Move these frames a little further so I have a little bit more room to work these last few, because it's pretty cramped on the other side of this box. Always make sure you give yourself enough room. You don't want to be rolling bees. Alright, that looks good, y'all. Capped brood. Some of the cells that are open have nectar in them, but this one's pretty much brood. More of the open cells on the back are backfilled, but there's a healthy amount of brood there as well. Winter bees. A little patch of good looking capped brood there, surrounded by honey. Oh boy, it's tough to flip. Another situation, or similar situation on the back. Capped, surrounded by honey. Good deal, good deal. These leaves a little bit more smoke as they're starting to pay more attention to what I'm doing. So, as far as the food situation goes, they're pretty much nearing the end. All of these frames are nice and heavy. Of course, we will provide them sugar bricks in November. Okay, so honey again. Honey again. I have not seen the queen, but to be honest, once I started seeing fresh eggs and young larvae, I kind of stopped looking for her. As I'd suggest you guys do as well. I mean, at some point it's just not worth it to continue messing around in the hive just to set your mind at ease. If you see that she was there, let that be good enough for you. So the other frame is, the final frame is honey on the inside half. I think it's just bare to the foundation on the outside half, which is fine. That's the only part of the hive that I'm cool with foundation being. So yeah, this one looks good. There's a decent amount of brood, a good amount of bees, a lot of food. They're nice and gentle. They're the genetics that I've been working so hard to create here. So yeah, this is the fruits of my labor here. I have high hopes for these ladies going into the cold months. So I'll probably let them finish. I don't know, I might put one more feeder pan on them just to fill out these other two lighter frames. That depends on how much sugar we have, because we bought a lot of sugar this year. But either way, I'm not worried about it. There's no emergency feeding necessary on this one. They look good. I'm going to check this lid one more time for the queen, just to make sure. Alright, so that's good enough for me. I like what I've seen here so far. I like what I've seen here. I'm going to put their feeder back on them because there's still some in it, and I may or may not refill it one more time. Just checking the lid once again, making sure. Because it's never cool to roll or kill a queen, but certainly with October just a couple days away, this is not the time when you want to be messing around with trying to requeen or anything like that. Although we do have a few mated queens still available. So yeah, I like what I've seen here. This one's well set up, and they will have a good shot going into winter. They won't be sitting right here. I'm going to move them back to the main portion of the bee yard before too long, so that they can take the benefit of that line of trees on the north and west edges and have a little bit of windbreak. But for now, this one looks good. Click like if you liked it. Click subscribe if you're not already. Get out there and have some fun with your bees. Make sure they're ready for winter. Thanks for watching.